Joining us now are two young performers, up-and-coming stars in the new wave of rock music. Their names are Joan Jett, who is a singer and guitarist for the Runaways, an LA-based band composed of 5 girls, and Paul Weller, who, I beg your pardon?
4.
4? Strike that. They were 5, but now they're 4. And Paul Weller, who is 18 years old, the lead singer of a British group called The Jam. We saw them on a little piece of film at the start of the show. He prefers to be known as a new wave artist because punk rock is a label invented and exploited by the media. Is that true? Did we make it up? And not the musicians?
I don't say you, but certain music press in like, England.
So the term was not generated by the musicians or the performers themselves. When did that term first appear in print over there?
I mean, just as soon as they realised that if they used it, they could think up the term, they could sell them papers for them, right? What you've got to remember is that punk rock is a big flashy neon sign, which sells like commodities, whereas new wave is an attitude.
What is the attitude?
It's an attitude of the youth, of like suppress youth. For years, youth has been unrecognised, and this is just a way of getting back.
At whom?
At whoever suppresses them. What
do you think is suppressing you? Or who do you think has suppressed you?
I remember it's like things like school, right? Like, you're constantly, the teachers are telling you like, what they've learnt in the past years and how they fought the war for you, which I'm very grateful, but I've got things to tell them as well. So now I'm doing it.
What do you think you're telling them?
I'm telling them about me, I'm telling them about my environment.
What does your music say? I've not heard it, so give me some ideas. Pick one of your songs and tell me an idea.
Well, the whole music is environmental, so it's just our surroundings. It's like housing problems. Like there's a great housing problem in Britain. And I don't know, it's everything, right? You know, it's like recognition of youth. It's also about truth. It's also about unity.
About which?
Unity.
Is the American new wave much the same as what he's describing, or is it different, Joan?
Well, I think a lot of the American bands, at least the most recent ones, like after the Ramones and the original New York bands, they're trying to copy a lot of the English bands, a lot, you know, just to cash in and get the gigs. You know, they copy the dress, the whole bit, just to get the, you know, the gigs.
Do the Runaways copy? Or emulate?
When we first started, we formed in August of 1975, and the term punk rock wasn't even around. And we went over to England in September. Yeah, September of 1976, and that's right when it was starting, right with the Sex Pistols, and that's the first time I'd seen everybody dressing that way, and then that's the first time I had heard about it, and I came back, you know, to America, and I was telling all these people, you know, all my friends about it, because it was really different. Nothing was happening here in America, and it was over in England.
And you saw this before you joined or formed the Runaways?
No, this was after the Runaways were formed, so we started 2-3 months before you know, the word punk, you know, all these punk bands started coming out.
Do you object to being called a punk rocker?
I really think it's a media term.
Right.
I mean, as far as I think the whole band, the Runaways, are concerned, we're just a rock and roll band. And everybody's pretty, they don't know what to say about an all-girl band besides the fact that we're just a band. They don't know where to put us. And so they just say, well, we're young, we sing about, you know, slightly outrageous things, rebellious things, so they stick us in that field.
How rebellious? How outrageous?
Well, we just write about things that happen to ourselves or happen to our friends, you know, experiences that, you know, personal things.
Like? Give me something really outrageous.
You recite Wasted from the new album?
No. Well, Wasted is about just getting, you know, people in Los Angeles and every place else just getting loaded on drugs and, you know, drinking and stuff like that. You know, it's common stuff. We write about all kinds of stuff, about hating people, about falling in love with somebody, you know, whatever happens to us, you sit down and write a song about it. You got the idea.
It's exactly the same for our band.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same sentiments for our band, you know. And most of the bands that are involved in the new wave scene.
Does it surprise you, as Kim mentioned, your records sold very, very well in Japan, but you can walk down Sunset Boulevard and many times not be recognized? You know, you're a hit in Tokyo, but in Los Angeles, maybe not as big a hit.
Well, see, the difference is that a lot of people know me in L.A. I mean, I can walk down Sunset and people say hi, but it's no big deal to them. It's
well, then
like,
why did
hi.
you say that, Kim?
Well, it depends on the kind of day, the time of day.
Oh.
Yeah,
if Joan walks at
and
night,
Sunset
she's
Boulevard
clean,
is a long street.
but during the afternoon,
see,
if Robert Redford walked down, he might get more looks in the afternoon.
In Japan, it's the difference between being the Runaways in Los Angeles and being someone like the Beatles in Japan, because it was so amazing. I mean, in Japan, we went there, The record company, no one expected we'd be as big as we were there. Even we didn't. It's like being schizophrenic, coming back to America and being slightly known, and then going to Japan and being known by 60-year-old ladies and men. You walk on the street, 2 seconds, you got 1,000 schoolgirls following you, pulling out your hair. I mean, it's just like Beatlemania. It was amazing. We couldn't believe it. And then back here, it's like people know who we are. They come up and they talk to us like normal. There, they sit there and scream, go crazy, cry.
Would you book the Jam or would you book the Runaways? Aren't you glad I asked?
I've heard the Jam, and I think Paul is very talented, by the way.
I have a feeling there's a but coming.
No, it's not what it used to be. And producing shows, and you have to, we have large staffs now, and we have to do business. And I like your group, and I've heard them. So I'm lucky that Paul is sitting here, and I haven't heard.
You mean you don't wear swastikas and you don't wear Ku Klux Klan?
There's very few people who do in Britain. I mean, that's another thing that is
Mediaized, hyped?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, to comment on what Paul said and Joni, I don't think what they're saying is any different than what the people said in the mid-'60s, that they want to talk about their times and the problems that they're having at that time of their lives. I would, it would be easy for me to book the Jam because I think they have talent, or the Runaways, and I haven't heard them. But I'd have to be honest with myself and with you that there have been, and there will more than likely continue to be, some bands that I don't like too much. But we have a
for the reasons you defined up top, the way they conduct themselves.
And there are some of them that just avoid of one thing, which is talent. But there is a part of our society that likes that particular group, and we have an overhead. I wish that weren't so. It's the man with a small office who can be choosy and say, I will only book shows that I like, that I think the others will like.
Didn't you book the Nuns for a while at one point in Winterland?
One time I did, yes.
How did that work out?
I think it was all right for them. I didn't feel too good about the whole evening, but I think some people were pleased.
Well,
I wasn't.
The Runaways once played the San Francisco area with Quicksilver Messenger service, and you did all right with their fans who came in overalls and were surprised.
We did better than they did.
Did you?
Yeah.
How many encores?
2 or 3.
To go back to the fact that there are some with lack of talent, can't that be said of all kinds of musical groups, whether it be symphonic orchestras, whether it be chamber orchestras, whether it be pop singers? I mean, whenever there's a new trend in music or a repeat of an old trend, there are some people with no talent who try to cash in.
How do you describe talent? Talent is something that a mass of people likes. So if there's a mass of people, are you going to say that that group has talent? You can go the reverse. I know some brilliant, brilliant artists that have great talent, have no audience.
True.
So how can
Because
you
they're not commercial, excuse me.
How can you say that punk bands are not talented? I mean, who says what is talent and what isn't talent?
Well, I mean talent defined in terms of being able to support the overhead of an establishment. I mean talent in terms of being able to attract an audience that will pay hard money to come in and see.
We played Hammersmith Odeon, which is like a very big venue in Britain, which is 3,500 people, right, which may be not big by American standards.
How many does it seat?
3,500, right?
3,500, yeah.
No, 3,500. Yeah, right, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't very good at maths anyway. But we sold it out, right? So, I mean, that proves, like, the effect of New Wave in Britain.
That just proves that there's a demand. It doesn't say anything about talent. We've put groups into places that hold 50,000 people.
Yeah, I mean...
And I looked in utter amazement that so many people came. I was very happy.
You're also talking about, like, people jumping on the bandwagon. And like, if you talk about the psychedelic days, right, like all the psychedelic bands, there were some good bands like Grateful Dead and whatever. And also there was a lot of like really bad bands who just used that tag to get on and got signed by record companies. Yeah. So it's the exact situation, you know.
That's what I say. It's the exact situation as it applies across the full range of musicians. And talent would also be defined as not being able to fill 3,500 or 50,000 once, but 5 years running can keep doing it over and over again.
You see, if the label is punk, but if a group gets on the stage, whatever you want to label them, and they cannot play and they cannot sing and there is no melody, I consider that a novelty act. And if it sells, we will more than likely book it. I wouldn't be too proud of myself. I'll walk to the bank sort of sideways.
But nonetheless, you will walk to the bank.
I will try to.
Nevertheless, Gladys Gooding will play the national anthem.
Oh, God, yes.
We will continue after these words from our sponsors.